What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy Trey Johnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect But podcast. Before we get started, y'all know the house rules. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Always feel free to comment. Just make sure y'all keep those comments respectful. And y'all know what I told y'all I was going to talk about for today. Just some mid-season predictions based on my early predictions and with the NBA and seeing where I am with those, which I can tell you I'm pretty far off. But man, I gotta talk about a few things that done hit us in 24 hours. And first, look, I gotta talk about I was a victim last night watching what Joel Embiid did to my San Antonio Spurs. This man broke Wilt Chamberlain's Sixers record for points scored in the game, scoring 70 on us, dropping 70 points on us. And look, I'm gonna say it right now because y'all was trying to act like Wemby was the one getting persecuted out there. Nah, Wemby only got 16 points scored on him. Okay, and while Joel was still doing his thing, Wemby was in the game. Guess what? Look, Wemby did his thing too. Wemby dropped 33. Now, look, it ain't 70, but guess what? The 76ers didn't have a Zach Collins to go at. So maybe if they had a version of Zach Collins, or maybe they had Zach Collins himself, because the way he was playing, he might as well have been a 76er. Maybe Wemby would have dropped, maybe 60 or something, because he don't get the foul calls that Joel Embiid gets. But either way, look, man, it's hard to score in the NBA as is, at that many points. So to score 70, it is what it is. But I will tell you, sometimes it's hard watching Joel Embiid play the game of basketball. You don't like to see a guy that's over 7 feet tall, almost 300 pounds, flop around the floor. Look, we've seen him injure himself. We've seen him injure players. There's a reason why he never gets out the second rounds because his body's beaten. And I would like to think it's because for 82 regular season games, or at least the games within the 82 regular game season that he plays, he's always flopping on the ground. He's a big guy. His body's absorbing those hits. So by the time they need him most, he can't give it to him because he's hurt. But that's because he puts all his wear and tear on his body, falling to the ground all the damn time. Hits add up. But anyways, got to give this dude a shout out because that was still incredible to do that as a big man in the league. It was crazy. And then, getting some points against Wemby, but just in general, being the best player and being able to score that amount of points as a big was incredible. And still, we saw another big last night in Karl Anthony Towns, affectionately known as Cat, go for 62 points against the Charlotte Hornets. So it was like big men were just on a mission. And, between Cat and Joel Embiid, who are probably two of the more offensively sound from a scoring standpoint, big men that we have in this league, for them on the same night to be going crazy. And granted, Cat got benched in the fourth quarter. So who knows how much he could have went for if his coach, while still trying to send a message, and I understand that, coach, and y'all the top seed in the West, and so we'll get to that in a second. But come on, man. Cat is having a career night. Let him finish the job. We could have had two big men on the same night go for at least 70 points. Y'all know how insane that would have been. So it is what it is, but it was it was neat to see, especially if you're a fan of the big man in basketball, which some have said have gone extinct. But Joel Embiid, Karl Anthony Towns, they've been guys that have revolutionized their game as big men to be able to stretch the floor and things like that. But they can still get it to you, give it to you down low, give it to you from free throw line extended. So really was some hell of a performance. I didn't really get to see Cat's performance, obviously, because it was going on around the same time as what was happening to my Spurs, which I think they should press charges because that was not nice of Mr. Joel Embiid. But anyways, another story before I get started is, look, Giannis is kind of on my shit list right now, and look, he gets on the shit list because he's the best player on the team. But just a few hours ago, Coach Adrian Griffin Sr., first-year head coach for the Milwaukee Bucks, was relieved of his duties. Now, if the Bucks were losing and having kind of an iffy season, totally understand that. They are, in fact, 30-12 on the season, I believe, is what their record is, 30-12 or 30-13, something like that. So a coach that's won roughly 70% of his games halfway through the season, right? gets relieved of his duties. And so there's a lot of reports going around. You never really know what it is. It could still be something off the court, but for all the reports going around, it's saying that it was basketball related. Some reports are saying that Giannis just lost faith in him, especially from a defensive standpoint. And, the way the Bucks weren't winning games the way they were used to winning games. So a lot of close games this season, but just trying to pull it out. And some felt that they were winning in spite of coaching, not because of coaching. But look, man, you can hate Coach Griffin's defensive lineups and how he's doing it, but let's not forget that defensively, the Bucks were gutted in the Damian Lillard trade. They got rid of Drew Holiday. They got rid of Grayson Allen. So they had to make room to bring Dame Lillard in, and you knew that you were getting something explosive offensively, right? Especially towards the end of the year in crunch time situations, which Dame has come through in those situations. But you knew you were going to lose a lot defensively. And so a lot of pressure was going to be put on Giannis. A lot of pressure was going to be put on Brook Lopez. So you kind of knew this going into the season. And so to fire him, if that's one of the reasons you fired him, I think that's BS. Also, another report is that Damian Lillard was unhappy with his usage offensively, and they didn't feel like they were getting the usage out of him that you would expect in terms of what they gave up to draft him in the cat or to what they gave up to trade for him and the caliber of a superstar that he is. But if you're telling me that they fired a coach that was giving you wins because the player wasn't liking their stats, well, first of all, I'm still going to put this on Giannis because it's his team. But, sir, you're a career loser in Portland. You don't get to come here and say, oh, well, my stats on what I'm used to. Well, guess what? The wins aren't what you're used to either, sir. So I don't mean no disrespect by that, but it is what it is, okay? Like, we're not going to sacrifice wins for stats. One of my good friends in college, Tevin, shout out to you, boy. I hope you're doing great things. I remember one time during the intramural game, and I'm watching him play, and one of his teammates is complaining about playing time. And Tevin says, you want to play or you want to win? Because we're winning right now, and you sitting on the sidelines pouting and upset, and your team's doing great. And when you're on the court, you're doing great things for us. But you're mad because you're not getting the stats. You're not getting as many minutes as you want. Like, what you want to do. If you want to play and just play, go play for another team. But if you want to win, which a person in Damian Lillard's situation says he wants to win, you go to a championship caliber team. You're winning second seed in the conference right now, and they're within striking distance of the Boston Celtics. Why are we getting rid of a coach? And then they're saying, Doc Rivers is expected to replace him. Doc Rivers being a person who was fired last season. And apparently he was brought in as a consultant for Coach Griffin and, essentially stabbed him in the back is what it looks like to me. And so, bigger picture here, I just hate, like, being a black man in sports and knowing what I'm, aspiring to be and will be, seeing what happens to black coaches and the goalposts consistently being moved. Like, dude, y'all gave Steve Nash fucking 3 years and he had no coaching experience. Coach Griffin has been putting the work in for years as an assistant coach and finally gets his chance to be a head coach. And not just a chance to be a head coach, chance to be a head coach for a perennial playoff championship contender when usually the only jobs reserved for black coaches in this league are for rebuilding franchises where they're going to get fired in a year or two because there's no way that team is really going to have a resurgence. Whereas their counterparts, when they're given those same jobs, they're given ample amount of time to at least build something. If they can't build in that certain amount of time, then they are relieved of their duty and they'll find another coach to take things on. And so people saying, oh, this guy wasn't ready and they were winning in spite of him. Guess what? A lot of wins come in the NBA in spite of coaches. I think we're starting to see now that a lot of the Golden State Warriors wins came in spite of Steve Kerr because now that he's being charged to have to really lead and to get the young guys ready to keep up the tempo and the build, the thing that Mark Jackson was able to do when he first became the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr is not built for that. We saw right away that Steve Nash wasn't built for that, and they still kept him around. But a coach who's winning and is successful essentially right away, it's his first year. Is he going to have everything together? He's halfway through it. This is his first time being in this position. No, he's not going to have everything. And like I said, Giannis, like you waited for Bud to get it right. Shit, you were fucking crying to the front office, begging them not to fire Jason Kidd, and he wasn't winning a damn thing. This guy comes in, wins 70% of his games. I don't give a damn if y'all winning in spite of him, because guess what? It's still your job to win games. Make him look good the way y'all be making these other coaches look good. Make him look good. Allow him to take the credit. We understand it's a players' league. It's always been a players' league. But y'all give the coaches the credit in those situations. So can Coach Griffin not have been afforded that? And then if it's true what Coach Rivers did in the situation, I'm a little upset with that because it kind of feels like a little stab backy, but it is what it is. Be your own people, apparently, is what it looks like. So all I'm gonna say is this: a lot of legacies are on the line if they don't get this right. If the Bucks aren't competing, because no, you can't say, "Oh well, we made the playoffs, we made it to the first round, we made it to the second round, we made it to the conference round." No, you have to win a championship now, because you basically said a guy winning 70% of his games and halfway through year one wasn't good enough. So it's got to be a championship level basketball. So if you don't win a championship, it's a failure. So Giannis, that's a stain on your legacy. Dame, your stained legacy of being a career loser continues. And Doc, being a career playoff choker outside of being carried by Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen for a season, essentially for a championship run, you're a career playoff choker. So that's going to be all three. And honestly, I'm hoping it happens because y'all deserve that shit. Because there's no way this man should have been fired after winning. If he gets fired like this, don't complain when new coaches of color and diverse coaches are up and they're not getting the chances. Because this is what y'all are doing to disadvantage coaches from disadvantaged backgrounds or disadvantaged ethnic groups. This is what you're doing when they get a chance, winning games. Nobody really gives a damn how they're winning games. We look at win-loss record. And to be in a position where he gets fired, oh, this is, I don't know. But I want to move on. I can have a whole episode about that. And Bucks, y'all better hope y'all win a championship this year or get real damn close, because I just might have to dedicate an episode of no disrespect, but being very damn disrespectful to y'all, because y'all disrespected a man in his livelihood. And I just don't appreciate it. Y'all better make up a report or something that is something off the court is why you had to move on. Because if it's truly basketball reasons for a guy that was 30-12 at the time of his firing, we're going to have to have some questions answered, because that's ridiculous. But anyways, let's get to the subject matter of what y'all really tuned in to see. And to opening night, or in preparation for opening night of NBA, I gave some predictions. I gave some predictions of who I thought the top 10 seeds might be. I gave some predictions on um, who I thought, like, as far as the MVP, season awards, who they might be. Gave you some bold predictions. I can tell you right now, two of the three ain't happening. The Spurs are not making the playoffs, let alone finishing top 6 in the Western Conference standings. It's over. I'm already looking at the lottery, seeing who we pairing with Wemby, maybe seeing if we can do some trades to get some superstars like a Trae Young. But that shit's done. We're just playing for Brownie points and Wemby points right now is really all we're playing for. Um, then I believe I predicted that um, Paul George will be traded at the deadline, because I thought the Clippers might have a down year, and they were hit or miss. They started off really well. They ended up doing the trade for James Harden. So they started off a little shaky at first, but now James Harden is getting his groove back. Russell Westbrook is doing well coming off the bench. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are lighting it up. They're staying healthy. Knock on wood there, because I don't need Clippers fans coming after me, even for the few fans that they do have. So if they keep this up this season, they might be in for something. And so, anyways, yeah, like I said, so I gave a few predictions to begin the year. And so now that we're a little bit past the midway point, the push to the All-Star break. Wanted to touch base, see what I predicted, see where I am, and then I'm going to give you my final predictions on the final 10 seeds. And I won't give you final predictions on season awards, but I'll at least give you my mid-season awards right now. I'm going to stick to my final season awards for now, but we'll see at the end of the year where I end up. So if you recall, for starting with the Western Conference, the top 10 seeds that I had going into the playing rounds and that type of thing, from 1 to 10, I'll count them out for you. I had the Nuggets as the 1 seed. I had the Suns with the new big three with KD, D Book, Bradley Bill, had them as the 2 seed. Had the Pels at the 3 seed. Had Zion being relatively healthy, BI being relatively healthy, CJ healthy. Just thought some of their role players had matured a little bit. Unfortunately, Trey Murphy missed some time, but Jordan Hawkins, when they do play him, he's been playing well, that type of deal. 4 seed, I had Golden State having a little bit of a bounce back from last season, where I believe they were the 6th seed. So I thought Golden State might have a little bit of a bounce back. 5th seed, I had OKC. So I did have OKC, making the playoffs again this year, having a better seeding because I knew Chet Holmgren was going to add a dynamic. I mean, he's one of the better players in the league, young players in the league coming in. He was going to be one of those guys last year. And so to bring a guy that's an elite defender, can do everything at his size from a scoring standpoint, shoot the three, post up, really good at the free throw line. I knew adding a talent like that, OKC would have to improve. And if they didn't, there would be some changes there. Y'all know I at 6, I had the Spurs. Not gonna talk about that. I didn't know the first 30 games we were going to start Jeremy Sohan at point guard. So forgive me. I know we're going to be experimenting the first 30 games of the season that we're trying to win. I was wrong. Um, at 7 seed, I had the Lakers. 8 seed, I had the Kings. 9 seed, I had the Mavs. And the 10th seed, I had the Timberwolves. So as you guys hear me reading that off, I know based on what y'all know now, we're about to go over a little bit. Y'all like, this fool was all the way wrong for the most part, which I was. The team, I'll tell you, starting now with the current. The team that I had finishing in the 10th seed, the last spot in the play-in, is now the 1 seed. Your Minnesota Timberwolves. Shout out to that fan base. They're faithful. They are the number 1 seed in the Western Conference right now, followed by the Oklahoma City Thunder, who I had in the middle of the pack. They're the 2nd seed. Denver, who's kind of in a tie with the T-Wolves in the win column with 30 wins. They're the 3rd seed right now. The Clippers, who I didn't even have in the playoffs, right? Because I was like, hey, they're going to end up trading Paul George. They might release Russell Westbrook. Kawhi might not even be playing. I'm thinking they're going to be fishing in the lottery somewhere. They are the 4th seed. The Suns, who I had in the top 2, they're the 5th seed. Now, granted, Bradley Bill missed some time. KD's missed some time. D Book has missed some time. So they've had some injuries, but it is what it is. It's basketball. They're the 5th seed. The Pels, who have kind of been teetering-tottering. So they've been teetering-tottering on the year. They're right in striking distance. The Western Conference is always 1, 2, maybe 3, 4 games separating a 6 seed from a 2 seed and stuff like that. So the Pels have been teetering-tottering. But they've been relatively good. You want to see them play a little bit better against some of the championship caliber teams in the league, but I've seen moments where they've woken up and risen to the occasion, and they've most certainly beaten some of the teams that they're supposed to beat, which is always a good recipe for positive and for success. So right now they're the 6th seed, and so we'll see if they can stay healthy and have that push towards the playoffs. The Kings are the 7th seed. The Mavs are the 8th seed. The Lakers, sitting at 500, are the 9th seed. And everybody's already talking about them maybe making some moves, as they typically do with a LeBron-led team, to make a push for the postseason. Maybe get some more bodies in. That's what they did last year. Got some bodies in, made a push for the playoffs. Majority of that being without LeBron, by the way. And they were able to make some noise and get to the Western Conference Finals last year. So will they have another resurgence? And then last but not least, right now in the 10th seed, or in that 10th spot right now is Utah. Um, and I think like Golden State and Houston, they're circling around the pack right now. So with that in mind of where we are now, where I thought we might be by end of year, and where we are now, I'm going to give you my final predictions for the top 10 seeds in the Western Conference. And we won't go over this again until it's playoff time when the 10 seeds have been told, and then uh, we'll talk about what our play-in predictions are, and then we'll go. So, but those are months away. That's months away. So, final predictions. I think the Nuggets will catch up to OKC and the T-Wolves. I think the Nuggets will finish as the top seed in the conference. I put something else, but I'm going to switch it. I think Minnesota finishes as the 2 seed. I think OKC finishes as the 3 seed. I think the Pels get back into the top 4. I think they finish as the 4th seed, and they host the Suns, who will be in the 5th seed. So I kind of have the Suns staying put where they are. I have the Clippers falling to 6. I have the Lakers at 7. So the Lakers bumping up a little bit to have that top seed in a play-in tournament. Have the Lakers bumping up to 7 because I think they're going to make some moves at the deadline, and LeBron's going to pick his spots until this time. I have the Kings as the 8th seed. I have Golden State creeping back up. I think they're going to get healthier. I think some of the younger guys are going to, continue to grow. I have Golden State finishing as the 9th seed, and then I have the Mavs finishing as the 10th seed. Now, of course, I can be wrong. There's like 35, 36 games for some teams left. So who knows what can happen? Obviously, everybody's trying to get to, a few more weeks to get to All-Star break, get that break. So we'll see, after All-Star weekend is when you see a lot of teams that were either on that verge of playoff really start to make a push. You may see some teams who are at the top because maybe sometimes they've had an easier schedule at the beginning of the year. They start to lower position. You see some of the better teams use this time to separate themselves. So we'll see. I think the Western Conference is a free-for-all right now, but those are my final top 10 predictions for the Western Conference. Now, let's go to the Eastern Conference. So when I started at the beginning of the year, this is what I had my top 10 from 1 to 10. Had the Bucks, had the Celtics, had the Miami Heat, had the Bulls at the 4 seed, Hawks at the 5 seed. I had the Magic as one of my surprises at the 6 seed. I had the 76ers taking the fall off, and had them falling off to the 7 seed without not only James Harden, but PJ Tucker. Had the Nets, at the 8 seed, the Cavs at the 9 seed, and the Knicks at the 10 seed. And what was crazy about that was that, if you recall, I have the Knicks making the Eastern Conference Finals. So I had the Knicks making the conference finals from the 10th spot, so they would end up getting the 8th spot and then, run the table, get to the Eastern Conference Finals, much like the Miami Heat last year. I don't think the Heat were in the 10th spot, but you know what I mean. A play-in team running the table, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. Well, at least for my Knicks pick, it looks a little bit better. I was much better with the Eastern Conference, at least in terms of having the teams in for the most part, than I was with the Western Conference. And so we'll start where we currently are with the East. You have the Celtics at the top spot. You have the Bucks at the 2 spot. We'll see what the coaching change does with that. You have the 76ers at the 3 spot. Cavs at the 4 spot. And what's crazy with the 76ers and Cavs, so with the 76ers, obviously, you lose a talent like James Harden, you think there may be some fall off. You never know what happens with Joel Embiid's health. Historically, he's missed some games. So you're like, if he ends up missing some games, and without James Harden, they may be in some trouble. But shout out to Tyrese Maxey, who stepped up. Tobias Harris has stepped up. Nicholas Batum has been such a great addition with his leadership and just being a great veteran. Kelly Oubre Jr. has been a godsend for them. Just what he brings from not just an offensive standpoint, a guy that can put some points on the board, but even being a guy that takes that challenge defensively. He's doing such a good job. The Cavs being led by Donovan Mitchell, doing the damn thing um, without Mobley and without Darius Garland. So they're without two of their top three players, right? And right now, D Mitch is carrying the load. And so who knows what can happen when those two guys come back. But right now they're in the fourth spot. The Knicks are in the fifth spot. The Heat are in the sixth spot, but they've been kind of going through some crazy things, some tough losses. They did just get Terry Rozier. They traded for him, and ended up trading Kyle Lowry in a first round pick to the Charlotte Hornets. So we'll see what Terry Rozier, Scary Terry, brings to the Miami Heat. At the seventh spot, you have the Indiana Pacers, led by Tyrese Halliburton. The Magic are at the eighth spot. The Bulls are at the ninth spot. They just got Zach LaVine back, so we'll see, with him being back, how that goes. And then you have the Hawks at the 10th spot, and they may be traders at the deadline. So who knows what's going to happen with them. Now, my final predictions for it, it's going to stay roughly the same for the most part. A few, changes here or there. I do think the Celtics are going to hold off to still be the number one seed in the East. I think the 76ers usurped the Bucks. I don't know who the coach is going to be, but I just think the 76ers, they're hot. They're a great coach team by Coach Nick Nurse. Um, they're starting to get it. They're starting to gel. Joel Embiid is playing out of his mind. The guy is averaging more points than minutes played per game. Do you understand that? He's averaging 36 points a game, and he averages 34 minutes a game. The guy is insane and is on a tear. Could very well win his second MVP in a row. That's how phenomenal he's been, especially when guys like myself wrote them off with them losing James Harden, not knowing how Joel Embiid, because he can, with his size, he can always come in a little bit out of shape and things like that. But no, he made it a point that he was going to be ready. He's going to carry the load. Now look, with all that damn flopping he's doing, I don't know what's going to last, if it's going to last through the postseason. But for now, I got them finishing with the 2 seed. I don't have the Bucks falling too far, just to the 3 seed. I mean, at the end of the day, and if it's true that they were winning in spite of Coach Griffin, maybe they'll still keep still weather the storm or whatever with the new coach, and they'll be fine. Giannis is one of the better players. My prediction to win MVP this year, so they'll be fine at the 3 seed. I do have the Knicks jumping a spot. I do have the Knicks jumping a spot to the 4 seed, and I have them usurping the Cavs in that spot. So I'm gonna have the Cavs at the 5th seed. I actually have the Pacers jumping the Heat, and so I have the Pacers at the 6th seed, and I have the Heat falling to the 7th seed, so being the top seed in the play-in tournament. So they have to do it again. I have the Magic at the 8th seed, which they currently are now, staying there. I have the Bulls staying at the 9th seed, which could change because they could also be sellers at the deadline. They could be, if they're a 9 seed, look, granted, Lonzo Ball was supposed to be a big part of this, but this team wasn't put together to be barely making the playoffs. So you can see a DeMar DeRozan on the trade market. You can see a Zach LaVine on the trade market, and they end up building around Pat Williams and Kobe White. You can see a Vooch on the trade market. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, I got them at the 9 seed. But at the 10 seed, I did have the Nets usurp the Hawks because I'm pretty confident that the Hawks will be sellers at the deadline. DeJounte Murray is a big trade target. DeAndre Hunter is a big trade target. Clint Capella is a big trade target. Bogey is a big trade target. So pretty much everybody but Trae Young is available. And so I can see them making some moves, trying to recoup some of their picks that they lost in the trade for DeJounte Murray. Thanks for that, by the way. But I do think the Nets might get it together, make a late push, and get to the play-in. So that's my top 10 for the East. And I want to close tonight's show just kind of talking about, I'm not going to give you my final predictions for the season end awards. I'm just going to stick with what I have, and we'll see where I am at the end of the year. But I do want to give out some trophies for mid-season MVP awards or mid-season awards. If the NBA can have an in-season tournament, I can have mid-season awards. So I'm gonna start there. For most valuable player for the mid-season right now, I will give that to Joel Embiid. No, it's not just being a prisoner of the moment because he just dropped 70 points on my favorite team ever. No, this guy has been balling. Like I said, 36 points per game leads the league. 36 points per game on 34 minutes per game, which basically means he's outscoring his minutes average. 11 rebounds per game, and he's actually on a streak right now where he scored 30 points or more in 21 straight games. So I'm excited to see how long this motherfucker keeps it up because it is crazy. It is insane what he is on, and he is well on his way. Look, I have Giannis. My prediction is that Giannis will win his MVP. But if Joel can keep this up and it leads to more wins, and they end up being a 2 seed or even a 1 seed by the end of the year, I could see Embiid winning his second straight MVP award. Rookie of the year, come on, man. Y'all know I'm going with Embiid. Everybody's been saying check. I get it. Most of them are saying it because they're crediting OKC's wins, which I get it. But Rookie of the Year is not like the MVP award. Rookie of the Year has never really been uh, never had that correlation between wins and who wins it. When team wins and who wins the award. Why? LeBron had less wins than Carmelo. Carmelo didn't win the award. Carmelo actually made the playoffs, but LeBron James won the award. And so we've seen instances where the rookie of the year doesn't necessarily have to win a lot of games. And I think if you watch the Spurs, you know by far he is the Spurs' best player, that they are so much better with him than without him. And it's just crazy. And look, I give Chet, I'm gonna give Chet some love. He is doing his thing. First of all, I don't think he's a rookie. He's had a year to be in the NBA system. We need to change that damn rule. I don't understand how the NFL, Major League Baseball, all these guys get it. All these other leagues get it, except the NBA. They want a guy who has been in the system for a year, 2 or 3, whatever it may be, and just hasn't played a game yet. And as soon as they play a game for the first time, oh, they're a rookie. That's not how that works. He's been in meeting rooms. He's been in practices. It's just different. He's learned the training regimen. He's learned the program. It's a lot different than a guy who's truly in their first season in the NBA. But in his first season, being able to play after being injured last year, Chet has been phenomenal in his own right. Um, what he's doing defensively, what he's doing offensively. But I think at the end of the day, he's a guy who's at best the second option on his team. At some nights, he's third or fourth, whereas Wemby's always going to be the top guy, even when his team is ridiculous and act like they can't give him the ball. He's the guy leading rookies in points per game, leading rookies in rebounds per game. And granted, the past, I think, 10 or 15 games, he's been on a minutes restriction. So we haven't even been seeing him play a lot of minutes. He's only been playing maybe 25 minutes a game. So roughly just a little bit half of game time he's been playing, and he's been on a tear recently. And he leads not only rookies, but the entire NBA in blocks per game at 3.3, which leads me to my next award. Now, again, I know Defensive Player of the Year to a degree gets judged kind of like the MVP award, where if your team's winning, we're going to give that to you. We're going to give that award to you a good bit of times. So look, if we're just keeping it face value, I think I would give it to Wemby. And yeah, oh, so you're a Spurs fan, of course you're going to give it to him. Well, the guy leads the league in blocks per game and total blocks. Uh, one of the leaders in steals per game. And we talk about the blocks, but guess what? He has the most blocks, but has the least amount of contests, which basically means if y'all actually tried Wemby more, he would shatter the block per game record. He would shatter it. But you see that teams actively avoid him. They actively avoid him underneath the rim. Even when he's on the perimeter, a guard will pass. Usually, a guard will take it to a big man when they have that mismatch. They will pass the ball to avoid going at Wemby. And so, knowing his presence defensively, what the Spurs look like with him versus without him on the court, I would go with him. But understanding that team record comes into play in this situation, Rudy Gobert, another Frenchman, may very well be the guy that takes it. I don't know, he hasn't had it in a couple years or so there may not be voter fatigue with him now. He averages 2.1 blocks per game, but much like Wemby, he's a guy that makes it difficult when he's there in the paint. You don't want to go there. You just don't. Um, and he affects an offense so much, and he does so much defensively for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who right now are the top seed in the Western Conference. So I can see team record playing a part in this award. Sixth man of the year, um, mid-season award right now. Um, I got to give that to Tim Hardaway Jr., playing for the Dallas Mavericks right now, leading all bench scorers in points per game at 18 points per game, shooting 39% from three. Um, Obviously, in the win column, um, the Mavs aren't all the way there, but just strictly being a guy who's a presence and can get the second unit going, a guy that can step in if you have some injuries, which he has done when a Kyrie Irving has been injured or when Luka has been injured, he stepped in and taken on that starting role and elevated his game. He's a guy that right now in the midseason, I'd give him the midseason sixth man of the year. And obviously you got guys like Jordan Clarkson, uh, uh, Bogey Bogdanovich over in Atlanta. So guys like that are honorable mention. But right now, for my six man midseason award, I'm gonna go with Tim Hardaway Jr. And then Coach of the Year midseason. I mean, I could go with Coach Finch over in Minnesota, especially knowing that I had them at the 10 seed, not the 1 seed. But I'm going to go coach. I think it's Dagonaut in OKC. They're second in the conference in wins. Really young team. While I had them as a top five team, I don't know if many people still had those expectations for them. But the way he has those guys playing offensively, defensively, Shai Gilgeous Alexander, SGA, he could have very well gotten my mid-season MVP award. And honestly, he probably wouldn't have gotten it. He probably would have gotten it if Joel Embiid wasn't playing out of his mind. But I gotta give it to OKC's coach right now. Um, just a phenomenal job what he's been able to do with that young group of guys, hungry guys who had a taste of playoff experience and now are ready to rock and roll. Um, really excited what the next step for them is going to be, and if they can keep it up, pushing into All Star break. But a lot of times those young teams they don't always have that same fire as they had in the early season, where it's just a lot of veteran teams pick it up after the All-Star break. So um, will OKC fall victim to that? Who knows? But in terms of where we are on the halfway mark, I got to give their coach the credit he deserves. And again, Coach Coach Finch over in Minnesota, he could easily have gotten this award, but I'm gonna go with OKC's coach on this one. So that is today's show, and as I ended, as I always do, if there's anything that I said that may have offended you, that is a good thing. It's an opportunity for me to learn, and it's an opportunity for you to teach me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace.